Good day, guys, and welcome to the podcast. We are the Beefy Sandwich crew, as per normal. The four of us are all here. We have
You say per normal, but I don't know how normal this is.
this is
We
it-
have our own standards of normality.
yeah. I mean, this
You-
is this. Okay, equilibrium is here.
You also said good day. It could be good evening. Just
Good
saying.
day. It's 24 hours is a day, you picky bastard. Yeah.
There's daytime and there's
He's right, we
nighttime.
don't call it a night.
You do. You say good day and good night.
I work 24 hours a night. No, it doesn't work.
Nah.
This night isn't 24 hours. You son of a bitch.
It's like I've got 40 days without sleeping, but I sleep at night time.
That'd be like the most bullshit thing ever. It's like, oh god, I've been awake 5 days in a row. Oh, you poor thing, it's fine. I'm sleeping at night. Don't worry. Jesus. Oh shit, I'm totally gonna pull that shit at work. I'll be like, because of work, I haven't slept 10 days in a row. Oh, fucking hell.
Oh dear. But yeah, as so we okay. Equilibrium has been achieved here at the Beefy Sandwich headquarters, which is apparently my sofa.
Yeah.
Yeah,
pretty
it's not
much
really a
is,
headquarters, is it? No.
No.
But yeah, we decided to take this time to talk about what we wanted to do in the last podcast. Was we actually wanted it to be a podcast about graphics, but unfortunately, Pokemon took over.
Yeah. Oh, that was the one that was heavily derailed by.
Yeah, that was one that heavily.
We are, despite the fact we've been intaking more Pokemon recently, we are going to avoid talking about
We're
it.
gonna that will be a separate cast because we
Yes.
want to carry on talking about Pokemon because even though we're in our 20s, we're all sad bastards and like Pokemon stuff. But yeah, so we're gonna do the graphics cast. We decided that this would probably end up being a subcast, and so here
Yeah.
we are.
Sup.
We just thought we'd start by getting out of the way the true thoughts of a couple of people here because
This is about.
basically. I agree that the PC is
Master race.
is best for graphics. If you're gonna want to play a game for graphics, then PC is the way to go because you can upgrade the graphics cards to whatever point
You
you
can
want
actually
to.
customize
Master
the
race.
graphics output, everything. Yeah.
And you can't keep using the term master race, otherwise I will just turn off your microphone.
Master race.
Master
You're also
And just to point out another thing about PC before we completely get off Pokemon. In no Pokemon games does it say Pokemon was sent to your Mac because PC's better. Anyway, now we've got all the PC arrogance out of the way.
just like I mean like we understand that like a lot of people do really class graphics. It's pretty much one of the main selling points of the game. You know, it's one of the biggest things. But it's just like it's one of the biggest things that's the argument on consoles, like the Xbox One and the PS4. Like a lot of games on the Xbox One are only 720p, whereas on the they're 1080 on the PS4. And it's just like at the end of the day, how much does that really matter for certain games?
You've also got the other thing of frame rate is there's always a compromise between the two. One of them's got a higher resolution but lower frame rate, and then the other one always seems to have, oh, we're running the same game, but it's lower resolution. Everyone's like, oh, it's like, but it's higher frame rate, and they're like, yay, and it's like, do you even know what the fuck that
Yeah.
means? Like,
I personally would rather have a higher frame rate because then you have like you can do the sort of
yeah,
last second twitch moves to get out of the way.
yeah,
and
it
stuff like
looks
that.
smoother, and you
Exactly.
get what looks like a better experience.
Exactly. And so I think I suppose if you're a graphics nut, it's all about the pixels. But if you actually want something where you can play a fast-paced game or something, I think that frames per second is really a big thing, and I'd rather that. But I mean, when you look at things like this flame war between the PS4 and the Xbox One, it's for games like Metal Gear Solid 5, which at the end of the day Metal Gear Solid's been a PlayStation game since its inception almost. I mean, there are a few games like they remade the first one on the GameCube, stuff like that. But like, so I didn't really expect anything less. I expected them to optimize it for PlayStation, but everybody's taking it as nobody can fucking do anything about it. Like it's shit on the Xbox because it's 720p. You know,
Yeah.
it's just like it doesn't seem right. It just
I think a lot of it varies from game to game. If they know they perhaps haven't got anything innovative in the gameplay, then they always mark it. Oh, also it looks amazing. Like I'm pretty sure when Skyrim was coming out, nobody said, "Oh, it looks amazing." They were like, "Oh, it's this and you can do that." It just happened to look fucking amazing.
yeah, and it does. Yeah.
I want to know what happens to games being judged on their gameplay rather than how they look.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, when did graphics become the be all and end all of gaming in general? I mean, at the risk of any of people finding this and starting a flame war on our comments feed, it's just a case of like, doesn't really matter. Like, to me, it's like I'd rather play Skyrim. I'd rather have a PC like with less specs that can play Skyrim or play it on my Xbox 360. Yeah, fair enough. But as I've said before, Skyrim, like the scenery, it adds more playability to it because when I've got the high specs on, I like to walk around and look at new things. But it's just like,
Yeah.
I feel like it's been an ongoing issue though for a long time, but just at a different scale. Because I remember back in the day where people were used to, compare what the N64 with the PlayStation 1. You used to get the same sort of thing, but at a
I
different
don't
scale.
think it was always marketed as heavily as it is now, especially because like AAA development and stuff is, even bigger than it was back then, and there's more studios opening, equally more shutting down as well. So have we got what's the problem?
it's working, but like, is it?
I don't know. I think it's okay.
Right.
Meh.
Anyway, carry on from me.
Yeah, it's cool. Yeah, come.
Yeah, what was I saying? Yeah, so AAA development has got a lot bigger, and it's the marketing for it is a lot louder and a lot more. It's kind of there's a lot more TV commercials about things. There's a lot more internet spam adverts. 'Cause it didn't really have much to do with the internet back then. So everybody needs a big selling point to yell about, and these days it's kind of like, well, especially at the end of the last console generation, where the Xbox and PlayStation 3 had been out for a very long time. It was kind of a look how much more we can squeeze out of this old outdated hardware kind of deal, I think.
Yeah.
That's why they made a massive thing about it the last couple of years, because they knew they were working with something really old. They kind of went, well, we can still improve things by a little bit, so we can do this and we can do that, and that's kind of carried over to the new generation. They're saying, look, we've got new machines, it's even better.
I feel like it thinking about it in their point of view, it'd be easier though to market graphics as opposed to gameplay, and because that's something you're gonna have to experience once you're in the game. There's only so much of that you can actually show in depth without giving anything away, perhaps. But with graphics, that's the selling point for the generation that we have now. They look at these amazing graphics regardless of what gameplay footage they see. And if the graphics do it for them, and then the game's already a success before they even start playing.
And to me, that's an issue. Back in the day, like with Nintendo 64 and PlayStation 1, like as much as graphic wars might have been there still to an extent, it's nothing like it was now. Games were sold based on their gameplay, not the graphics. It's just like since the media's gone all like, oh, you have to look fucking amazing for anyone to even be interested in you. Games have gone the same way.
It's true. I remember when on the N64, you'd have people like just throwing up an example, Zelda Ocarina of Time. Like nobody mentioned the graphics to me. It was all about the gameplay for that game, and that's what it was known for the amazing fun time you had with the gameplay.
If you look at when they released the 3DS version, if you look at the adverts for it, not in one point did they ever say that they improved the graphics on it, but they did. They improved the graphics. I went back to look at some videos of the N64 version compared to the 3DS version. There's quite a big difference there. Like, but the marketing was, they were just like, it's the exact same game that you played when you were younger, but this time it's portable and it's in 3D. Doesn't matter anything else. That's all you need to know. And it sold shit tons. 3DS sold a good couple of million units because of that game.
Yeah, I think the original fans of the game were the type of fans back then who were more focused on the gameplay rather than the graphics. So it would appeal to them to not have to market the graphics, but the gameplay.
It's like touching on something. It is graphics, but it's not quite what we're on. Like the Wind Waker, a lot of people really were unhappy about that because of the graphical style, but in the end, it became one of the most well-loved Zelda games, and they actually have an alternate storyline that follows Toon Link now. So it's just like, you can't really sit there and think that, because the graphics are different, it's all shit, although graphics have changed. Like, with the Ocarina of Time, that the Legend of Zelda games are pretty much the pinnacle of great game, but it could well have last generation graphics, because the Wii there's something we get onto, I suppose. It's like the Nintendo, when they do their graphics, they only do their graphics as part of like their graphics are always one step behind. They try and innovate in other ways. So the Wii had PS2 graphics or Xbox graphics, and Skyward Sword still sold shit tons. Like, it was a well-loved game. I don't know if it sold any because it was a way to jailbreak your Wii, but it was just a case of like, that game didn't have great graphics, but everybody loved that game. a lot of people were telling me it's probably the best game since the Ocarina of Time. I never played it because I honestly I've never really got into Zeldas all that much. I quite enjoyed the Wind Waker. I quite enjoyed Ocarina of Time, but I never really got into Zeldas. It wasn't really my thing, so I didn't really play it that much. But
Yeah.
It just shows how people's opinions of graphics have changed in the last, say, 15 years.
I really feel like the Xbox 360 and the PS3 is like the to me what the perfect sort of level of graphics. The balance between graphics to the point where you can really understand what's going on around you, and then also having really good gameplay. With games like Skyrim, obviously, yeah, you need a little bit more power. But with games like there are a lot of games like the Halo games. Everybody loved at Halo 4 because it was still at 720p. But if you look at that, it looked fantastic. I thought it looked
It looks
amazing.
a lot better even than Reach.
Exactly.
Especially than ODST.
It looks like even though it's still 720p, it really pushed things to its limit. Like it still looked good. And if I was to stay at that level of graphics for a long time and just be pumped with like, the games that are coming out on the new consoles, if they were the same level of graphics but just better games, I'd be perfectly fine with that. And 1080p, yeah, fine, fair enough. But that is that really the limit? Do we really need 4K?
I don't think there is going to be a limit because we did mention previously, for example, with a game like Final Fantasy VII, where people perceived it to be a good graphical game, whereas we can see it for what it is now.
Yeah.
So the way we perceive these games that are coming out now, perhaps we're gonna find ourselves with a completely new generation of graphics later on that we just can't imagine right now because perhaps back then when you were playing Final Fantasy VII, you couldn't imagine the games being at the graphical level that they are now.
But like when a game's graphical selling point, like Call of Duty, is hair, you can see the hair on your arms and the way that it blows in the wind. Like how much
long arms.
Yeah, it's hard to imagine how much further they can go.
Yeah, it's like natural ghillie suit.
Yeah. But like, yeah, no, I get what you mean. But like, 1080, like, at what point does graphics become better than the human eye? And at that point, is it worth improving
Well,
it?
the average gamer who is probably playing something like Call of Duty or whatever, like usually they'll play it after school or after work, whatever. They're probably not gonna notice. You know,
No.
they're not gonna notice the difference between like 720p and 1080 and all that kind of thing, because they're just playing one or two games. Like even somebody who plays a lot of games, a lot of variation of games, they would notice the difference between each individual game's like graphical quality maybe, but they wouldn't actually notice. They wouldn't really notice. Oh, this game is running at a better frame rate. They just assume it has something to do with the game.
Than the
itself.
same game on another console, you mean?
Yeah.
Like they think, oh, this is the same game. Like they're not necessarily going to notice that it's got a slightly higher resolution or anything.
Unless they have the same game playing on another console beside
Unless
them.
they've got a direct comparison.
No, because it just reminded me of something. Someone on my Facebook posted a side-by-side image of Titanfall on the Xbox and Titanfall on the PlayStation. Xbox One and PlayStation.
It's not coming out on PlayStation 4.
PlayStation 3 then.
Not coming out on any
Or
PlayStation
whatever.
console.
It's not coming out.
No.
It must have been combined with the PC
Probably
then.
It could have been PC or 360. I know they did a thing
well,
between the two.
they basically had two next to each other, right? And one was labeled 720, one was labeled 1080. And the guy was complaining about how what he didn't realize to be the 720 looking better. So now, all that made me think was that maybe like they can't actually even tell the difference well enough. They just want something to complain about.
Yeah. I feel like I know the difference. You can sort of tell little differences here and there, but I don't think they make a.
You'd have to really look because you're looking for like all the textures are going to be slightly better in some way. And
Exactly.
You've got to really,
really
fucking study it.
That tree and them leaves are exactly like one pixel
they're
better.
rendered slightly better than what I think I saw 5
Yeah.
minutes ago on the other console.
It doesn't matter to me.
It doesn't. It's
No.
like as I say, we like the average sort of Hawkeye gamer would be able to see the difference, but the average Hawkeye gamer probably doesn't give much of a shit. Like it's not a life-changing difference.
No.
You can still play the game. Oh no, the tree doesn't render at the best pixels on this version.
Oh no, I have to stand 5 foot closer to the tree.
Tress effects.
before-
That's all
Tress effects.
fucking tress
Well,
effects.
the thing is, if you're playing games enough that you're going to be noticing this kind of difference instantly, you probably enjoy them so much you don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it's like you were saying, they might notice. They're not going to care because they're like, sweet, I'm playing my game. It's cool.
Yeah.
What some people even do is maybe not. I don't know about console gaming so much, but in PC gaming, is even though the machines can run a game at 1080p 60 frames per second perfectly, they will still lower the graphics just to be able to stream everything that much faster.
Yeah. I do all of my recording in 720p because it doesn't look as good, but it still looks like a pretty substantial game that does work very well, and you can still see everything that's fucking going on.
Yeah.
We should do a comparison video. We should do a Payday comparison video where we play the whole thing in low res, like the lowest, and then play it in full res, and then
Yeah. Although we have still got the weird performance issue since the latest update and that, which seems to nothing looks better, nothing visually has changed, but everything's running a bit.
There's a new
everything
update
a
there.
bit different.
There's been an update since that.
They have released the Gauge Pack 2 now,
Yeah.
Yeah. I
where
think I
you get
may have instantly
knives
bought
or
that.
something.
But
I
back
d-
on
I bought
topic.
that.
Yeah, but anyway, but like with like, so Mass. Let's put it to you. Mass plays exclusively PC. He sold his PlayStation 3.
Yeah.
Sort of thing. If you were to be shown two versions of a game for two consoles that you don't play, and you were told to pick one was the 720p, and one was 1080p, but they were largely the same game. Just the 720p version was about £5 cheaper. Would you want to buy the cheaper
That does
version?
not bother me at all.
Doesn't bother you at all?
No, typically, even like YouTube videos. Let's go as far as YouTube videos. Everything everyone's familiar with, everything you see, you always have the option there.
Yeah.
I always go for the 720 just because it's convenient for me. I don't
It
see a
loads
difference.
quicker.
in that.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's just like I would rather a game that looks like. At what point does 4K become too much? Like, I mean, YouTube has started doing 4K videos now, and I'm just like, what is the fucking point? It's like getting something that's
Yeah, because
4,000
everybody has
pixels.
4K monitors.
It just, and I don't know whether it's just me, but like, surely that's more than the human eye can process.
Well, wasn't the argument between 1080i and 1080p that the difference between I and P was something that the human eye couldn't even differentiate?
yeah, something like that. So like,
Or a
we're
few
at that
layers of
point
depth,
now. The difference is so minute that the human eye can't see it. So we're at that point now with the end of the last generation of consoles and the beginning of this generation. Is it worth putting more effort into more pixels? Why can't they just like start doing something more interesting, like really sort of like doing more into something like Oculus Rift?
I think the problem is it's a big hang up from all the marketing of the last generation, whereas they kind of have to stick to their guns and keep marketing on graphics because it's what people are used to. They're used to expect to hear that their new game that they're going to buy has got the best graphical fidelity of anything ever on this console to date. It's like it made sense back when we were going from 2D to kind of 2.5, then 3D, because everybody thought, Jesus Christ, this looks amazing. This is a big jump. All we're doing now is like refining.
Yeah,
We're refining down to the arm hairs, the individual pixels, the chest effects, all that kind of thing. It's a little weird.
I mean, you've seen Xbox One graphics.
Yeah.
You've seen Xbox 360 graphics, obviously.
Yeah.
Like, there isn't much of a difference to me. Like, there's still 720 and 1080p, and it's not like they are really. It's one thing I liked about when they first released the Xbox 360 was they were going quite into the whole idea of, was it swarm technology? I think it was.
Yeah.
And Dead Rising was like the selling point for this. Basically, it was the whole thing of you can have 1,000 zombies on a screen and your RAM will be able to handle it because there is a processor chip in there that can process up to 1,000 things on the screen at once for just
Yeah.
whether they're fumbling zombies or something like that. But they can get a ton of things on the screen and your game will work fine. Graphics didn't matter because at the end of the day, if you looked at it closely enough, the ones at the back weren't properly rendered until you got near them.
Yeah.
But that was an impressive thing because it was like we've taken this, we haven't really improved. The graphics have improved, but what's really really good you can see is that we've actually got the power to add more to the game.
Yeah,
And-
it is more substance than style. Like
Exactly.
most people aren't going to notice like the odd bit of texture pop in a giant horde of zombies or something because you're too busy thinking, oh shit, there's a giant horde of zombies. But like it's kind of it's a lot better because it adds, as you said, it adds something to the game, and it's more impressive technologically rather than, oh well, every single zombie there's only say 30 of them on screen at once. Will somehow hide the others or they pop in
Yeah.
when you pan the camera. But every
Fog of
single
war.
zombie you were able to see the lovely yellow color of their eyes. Everybody's like, I don't give a fuck. If you say, oh, we can put like 200 zombies on screen, you'll be like, holy shit, that's
Yeah.
amazing. That's gonna look so fucking
Because
cool.
it really, that sort of thing. It's like with a zombie game, you really want to instill that
Yeah,
feel of panic, like
yeah,
when
the,
you've got a
the
lot
kind
of
of
people on screen.
horde, basically.
Yeah, exactly. So it's just like it feels like I'd rather have that. Like when they said Dead Rising 3, every zombie was different. So they had like a set of hairstyles, a set of faces, a set of
Yeah.
like the bodies, shapes, that sort of thing. And they did it so that the way they did it was every single zombie was separately rendered.
Hmm.
The game still runs at 720p, but every zombie is separately rendered so that if you went into a crowd of zombies, there's a good chance that each zombie looked different from each other.
Yeah.
That's still pretty good. I mean, it's not
Yeah.
like that's not like swarm technology kind of innovation, but it's like, look, we've got more power, but
Yeah.
it's like I think the original thing with Dead Rising 3 was meant to come out at the end of the Xbox 360, but the stuff they were doing was so they wanted to do all this rendering of each thing separately, so they were like, actually, they were one of the first teams to get a Xbox One development kit,
Yeah.
and they were given that, and that's when they started making this, and it's just like, so instead of like they already had a bit of a game there with the graphics style and everything, so it was just a case of how can we get this, and with more that we're getting from this new console, what can we do with
Yeah,
it to add
it's
to our
nice
game?
of them to mix it up a bit on a level that you don't quite notice outright. But if you sat down and thought about it, you'd be like, Christ, that's quite good. Like even Left 4 Dead, I think it was Left 4 Dead 2. I don't know if they did it so much in 1. I remember them saying there was a big deal because they said, oh, now for zombies we've got a base of like, 50 skins, 100 skins. Every time it loads a bunch of zombies in, it's just going to pick random skins. So the chances of you getting like all of them looking pretty similar is quite low. Even for things like they had different like crashed up car models. Every time you go into that giant car park level on the parish, there'd be like a slightly different arrangement of cars. Maybe every now and again they'd have like a different thing. You know the whole AI director system
Yeah,
that they implemented, where every now and again a wall will be changed, so you have to go through a different path. Even something like that sounds really simple on paper
yeah.
makes such a big difference. Whereas if they just gone, we will improve the graphics and not improve the AI director anyway, it would have been really. Well, it wouldn't have been crap. It would still be a good game, but
Yeah.
it's not as much. It's not as much innovation in the right direction.
Yeah, have they really sort of innovated since the beginning of the Source engine? Is a really like they've been using that Source engine for a long time now,
Yeah,
and
I
they're still
mean,
making decent games out of it.
yeah, they've done kind of what the Unreal Engine does, which it gets kind of heavily adapted and modified and upgraded for each individual game. But at the same time, they know that their graphics aren't the best. They've looked good, especially not so much with console ports, obviously, but that's just because Valve are used to developing for PC.
Exactly.
But I mean, they're always pushing their engine and remaking their engine for new things, and the Source engine wasn't made on graphics. It wasn't made to go, look how good this looks. It was made because we have fucking amazing physics. Now
And
play this game and this game that fuck with physics,
and
and that was great.
it can be easily modded.
Yeah,
I like that because they're not compromising on the game for the sake of graphics.
Yeah.
They're keeping to the standards and keeping the high standard of gameplay, and that's what I want from these companies. That's what I would want. That they're not going to compromise on their gameplay for the sake of graphics, and I wouldn't want them to.
yeah. It sounds much nicer that the company's going, okay, this is our new game. We've added this feature, this feature. The engine's now better, so you can do this, this, and this, which you kind of wanted to do in the last game. The graphics are all right, but they work. I'd be like, okay, I'll buy the shit out of that. Sounds good.
But the shit of that.
Yeah, Borderlands didn't really do anything to their graphics. They
No.
just they changed about the mechanics a little bit to improve them. They fixed some bugs, even though the game is still one of the buggiest games on Winnie 7.
Yeah.
Still a great game. And their biggest, I reckon the biggest selling point isn't, well, their gameplay is one of them, but the voice acting in that game is amazing.
Yeah, all the humour and the comedy. Like another thing is, have you ever seen the original screenshots of when Borderlands was supposed to be like
a realistic.
Yeah, I saw
realistically
that, yeah.
modelled?
Well,
And you look
they
at
didn't
it,
want to
you
be
think-
the excuse they gave was they didn't want to be a poor man's rage.
Yeah, it's just like you look at it and you're like, I'm so glad they went with what they did because A, the machines are gonna have a lot easier time running it, so you can do again more enemies on screen, more random explosions. You can fit more interesting stuff into the game rather than take it all up with giant texture files and everything. But I mean, a lot of games, especially kind of broaching into the whole indie thing, which we've done many times on this podcast. Like a lot of indie games go for a stylized thing, rather than outright trying to have good graphics, because they
Yeah.
know they haven't got the money and resource to compete. And thankfully, again, this is unfortunately seen a bit more in the PC market just because it's easier for them. But a lot of people are picking up and saying, I prefer stylized to, the typical realistic shooter-looking graphics, which is
Yeah.
quite good because it's kind of, the throwback to when graphics weren't as important. So it's getting a lot of people, maybe not a newer generation of gamers, but some people that have become a bit too set in the graphics are amazing ways of, you know what, this looks really good. Like, Borderlands looks fantastic because it's stylized. It doesn't actually look fantastic if you put it next to the latest Call of Duty or anything like that.
Yeah. Just like it does with Borderlands, it definitely has this thing where between Borderlands 1 and Borderlands 2, I think the only difference there really was graphically was like things rendered a bit easier. Like when you build up Borderlands 1, you'd look at the floor and it would take a while to sort of fade in.
Yeah,
And
that was because the
anti-aliasing
PC version was a shitty port.
anti-aliasing was best as well.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's just like, and it was just but the game itself wasn't built to be a fantastic looking game. I mean, you'll be hard fought to find a Gearbox game that really strives to look
But
realistic.
even
Yeah.
then, I still love how that game looks.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not saying it's a
Yeah.
bad thing. I'm saying is that Gearbox are not. I don't want to say pioneers, but they're the kind of people that you'd expect that if they made a game from scratch, because people get a lot of stick, give them a lot of stick for Duke Nukem and Aliens.
Yeah.
But it's like if they made a game from scratch, you can guarantee that A, it will probably be quite fun to play.
Yeah.
B, it will look great just as it is because it's not trying to be anything. I like the way they're kind of like unique. Even though Borderlands has a graphic style that's been used many times before, they use it in a way that's like it's a sci-fi but with this kind of graphics, and they've
Yeah.
added the sort of this thing to. So they've taken they've taken a load of bridges and they sort of crossed them in a way that probably shouldn't work. We're talking like the Firefly mechanics, where it's a sci-fi slash western. How like two complete opposite ends
When
of
you put it
spectrum.
on paper, you're like, what? But
Yeah,
practically, it works.
exactly.
What they seem to do is instead of what other game, not all games, but like a lot of other games that are very graphic focused, they seem to just think they seem to just try and compete with each other for graphics and outdo one another.
Yeah.
Whereas Borderlands 2, Gearbox even as a company, they give the game the graphics that suit the graphics style that suits the game rather than what suits other games, and they focus a lot on the gameplay, a lot on the voice acting in this particular game that we're talking about, and other games as well.
Yeah, they kind of focus on bringing you the complete package of their idea of what Borderlands should be and what it's about,
Exactly
which
that.
is
Yeah.
everything combines into one. Whereas a lot of the new games that are trying to sell themselves purely on graphics are going, okay, we think it should all be all about graphics, so we're going to have this linear explosion sequence and this linear explosion sequence. You're like, well, this is like watching a film because they just like there's bits because they want to show off how good their game looks.
Yeah.
The interactivity, which is kind of the thing with gaming, is completely taken out for large sections of games.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like with Borderlands as well, is that it seems from the first one to the second one, they really sort of not only did they sort of just make the gameplay better, they also listened to the fans, and the fans didn't go, "We want better graphics." What they said was, "We want this. We love the looting, but there wasn't enough of this." And so they're like, "All right, here's some of this. See what do you think?" And a lot of people have gone, actually, that doesn't work so well. And it's like, yeah, we didn't think so, but at the end of the day, we just wanted you guys to see what you guys wanted, see if you thought it worked. Because and it's just like I love when they do like. I wouldn't call it beta testing because the game is released, but when they sit there and go, "We'll try this. If it doesn't work, then we'll take it out the next game."
They're not allowed to. They're not afraid to try new things that their consumers have asked them to implement.
They're not afraid in general. They bought and released Duke Nukem Forever and Aliens Colonial Marines.
That's true.
They ain't afraid of nothing, mate. They ain't gonna fucking those games were.
They have balls of steel.
Yes, they were. My God, they were pretty much abominations to gaming these days. But the thing is that a lot of the problem with Duke Nukem was, again, a lot of people panned it because the graphics were outdated, because the humor was outdated. But Duke Nukem is a '90s action hero type thing, so it really sort
People
of
were expecting something new from something that is very much not you.
Exactly.
Let's take an old formula and remake it. And everyone's like, this is really old. It's like, we did say
Yeah,
We
it
did
was
say
like
we're
being,
taking an old formula and just making another
It
one.
was being released for like 10 years.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
was being made for like I think it was like
Development hell forever.
I think it was like Duke Nukem 3D was finished in like
Yeah.
1997 or something like that.
So even longer than
So
that.
it was like I
13
think it was like
years.
14, 15 years it ended up being. But like considering the time it took and the amount of times it got scrapped and remade, to be honest, I'm gonna say that Duke Nukem wasn't actually a terrible, terrible game. It was just a good game for the wrong era. Like it was a
Yeah.
PS2 era type game that would have got
It was
good.
for the wrong audience and the wrong people entirely. Kind of thing.
Exactly. And it was all about more just like, oh, everybody wants this game to be the perfect Duke Nukem game. It's been in development for 17 years. It's obviously not going to do great because the jokes are still there from 17 years ago, like from when the
Yeah.
original game came out.
Yeah, it's kind of they were making that for a market that wasn't there.
Exactly,
And
not anymore.
that kind of brings it back to, you know, the graphics thing is like, are they making this for an actual market of people that go, oh my god, my console runs this in 720 whatever and this frames, and the other ones are like, well, ours is higher frame but we have lower frames, god damn it. Does that market actually exist, or is this like kind of a hypothetical market that's just been the life's been blown into it by the marketing, and there's this just like ideal. I know in marketing there's an ideal audience, target audience you're going for, but it's usually best to not make them up.
Are you basically saying that that market only really exists because the marketing campaign was like, this
Yeah.
is what you want, and everyone's like, this
Yeah.
is what we want.
And a few people are kind of like, I mean, that's all right, and then a few people are like, actually, I kind of want that, and then in the end, you get the small market of people like, this is what we want,
And they're the only people with voices on the
Yeah.
internet.
Yeah, unfortunately, yes. They're the only ones who can be bothered to go on the forums and go, my game is better because of the graphics. Lol. Or
Yeah,
like PC Master Race.
people like that. I don't have words for them. But I guess
I
it's
have
not
two.
really their
It's
fault.
fuck and off.
It's not really their fault though. Like they're growing up in a media and in a time where looks and appearances in general for everything are like being made to be to matter a lot more than what they actually do.
They could just be not retarded.
But then, who do we blame? For example, with the marketers,
I blame the establishment.
I blame the
blame the
parents.
establishment.
Yeah, actually, that's.
But if the marketers market a game as a high graphical game, then these people that we say are complaining about these 1080 games or these 720 games, do they have reason to complain if that's how the game was marketed to be a high graphical game? Perhaps then maybe it's not so much on the gamer, but on the marketers who have marketed the game that way. Whereas if they decided to market the game for gameplay value, perhaps that's where the players would be judging the game upon the gameplay.
I think that it's a monster very much created by the industry.
Right.
Like I think that the industry has sort of started by going, look at this game, it looks fantastic. It's the same as the last one, but the graphics are a little bit better, so we should probably, you should play it because it looks better. It's kind of like, I suppose, to put it into a context, EA, FIFA, Madden, and NBA. Okay,
Yeah,
NBA
and
hasn't
a
been
lot
out for a
of the
while.
kind of sports games where
Yeah.
the gameplay isn't going to change because the
Exactly.
sport hasn't.
I don't feel like much has changed in the last 5 or 6 years in a FIFA game, but the graphics have got better.
You can trip over another player and go flying to the moon.
Yeah, that's a thing that happens. But it's just like, I feel like things like that have drawn people, like the yearly development cycle, because you can't really do much. I think it's the thing that Call of Duty suffers from the most is the cycle of game of the way they develop their games, because they develop on 2-year cycles but alternating. Oh no, it's 3-year cycles now because I've got Sledgehammer.
They've changed it, yeah.
Yes, but the thing is that what you've got is these guys are creating this game for 2 years, but there's in the middle and the next game starts, so they can't really sit there and go, we're going to do this, because by this point the next game's going to have come out and it might have changed something, but then they'd have to redo part of their game.
They've got to innovate their game on somebody else's schedule.
Exactly.
It's really weird.
And it's just like, so they don't really have much of a, like the crossover point is as such that innovation is difficult to come apart. So what they have to do is go, this game looks better this iteration. We've got new maps for you to play and they all look fantastic. The zombies, you can see their eyes light up, and it's like I can see their eyes light up in the iPhone game. What difference does it make? What the fuck is wrong with you guys?
You can see their undead arm hairs swaying in the breeze and
Falling off
rotting
in the
slowly.
breeze. Yeah.
They individually fall off because we partner with Tress Effects to be completely retarded.
I'd love to see that Tress effects on a zombie. Just it's flowing very nicely.
You know what? You know what? I want to see. I want to see Left 4 Dead or a zombie game where the the hair graphics are done by the people who make Final Fantasy.
I want the guys who make Contagion. If you ever listen to this, your task, should you choose to accept it, is to make Contagion 2 4K, full on Tress effects, everything. No PC will ever be able to run it, but it would look phenomenal.
You can go, guys, you should buy this. It's literally the best looking game ever. And people will buy that even though they can't run it. Because
Exactly.
apparently they're that stupid.
Just accept the damn challenge.
So there you go. So on that note, I
You
think
can have that one for free, guys.
Yeah, that's an idea, and if you do it, want our names in it, to email us. We'll give you the real names.
Yeah, it's fine. It's cool.
Yeah, it's cool. But
Anyway.
Also, can I just say the 4K
Yeah.
thing? This is something where the industry is trying to jump ahead too fast before they can actually handle it.
yeah,
Because I watched one of these 4K videos, and let me tell you, the frame rate was absolutely horrid. It just couldn't handle it at all.
That could be because you're watching it on a non-4K screen.
But the case is, people were having the same issues who could see the 4K for what it was.
It's like a
The
shitty
frame
tech
rate.
demo. It's like, look, we can do this one day.
Yeah.
So whereas I haven't looked
Thanks.
into 4K.
you 4K TVs are like 7-8 times the amount of a normal TV.
Yep, not bothering with it.
It's
ever.
just like HD TV. Give it 5-6 years, it'll be like £300 for a 32-inch 4K
People
TV.
are still jacking off to the fact that there's HD channels and this, that, the other now. Like, I don't think anybody, again, it's them creating a market. I don't think anybody really gives a shit about 4K.
So people are still jacking off
HD
over
is
the iPhone, but
perfectly
that's not the
fine,
point,
yeah.
is it?
Like, HD is perfectly fine. It's more than perfectly fine. It looks damn good.
Yeah, I mean, look at this. Look at all those waves on the screen right now.
Yeah, we can see all the little
Very funny it
individual
was in
bits of the
4K,
waves.
man.
If it was in 4K, I'd be able to see the nose hairs on that fucking wave over there. But
Anyway.
yeah, on that
We'd
note,
be able to actually hear the waves in real time.
Maybe.
We could
4D?
feel the waves.
feel the waves. It would be like giving me goosebumps and shit.
4D.
Be like colours and stuff. It'll be like the keyboard notes are coming down from the screen, and we're like trying to
Oh,
play
God.
them. But like,
God,
but
no.
oh no, the
we've
screen's
run
gone
out of
off.
time today.
Yeah, I think that's the end of that. And
Yes.
yeah, but like so that's sort of our thoughts on graphics, and we'll end the same way we started. That if graphics really bother you that much, we'd highly recommend getting a PC.
They look
Yeah.
pretty good.
I mean, it runs pretty much every game in 1080p that can be run at 1080p, and it looks good. And if it really matters to you that much, then that's where you should go, because
And also, you can upgrade it more than once every 8 years.
exactly. So it's just like, you know, it's
Yeah, and if you have like a PS3, for example, sell it off like me, and you won't regret it. Except for, Final Fantasy X
10.
remasters.
Yeah.
Damn it!
he just,
But mass graphics shouldn't matter. Play the original, you damn hypocrite.
I actually I only borrowed 10, and I'm only buying 10 remastered because I haven't got the copy of the game, and I was just like,
yeah.
I was like, I want to play 10. Damn it! Just like, but yeah, on that sort of like thing, we're gonna finish it there. So yeah, this is something else we've wanted to do for a long time, and here it is. And we hope you enjoyed it.
Yeah, thanks very much for
Thanks a lot,
listening,
guys.
guys.
Thanks, guys. PC Monster Race.
PC
I was
Monster.
going to say that.
Yeah. GGWP
Cheers.
Oh,
in
yeah.
4K.
Bye, guys.
Damn right.
Oh yeah.